The fire in the stone hearth was crackling, casting long, dancing shadows against the log walls of the cabin. Outside, a blizzard was burying the mountains of Washington in white, cutting us off from the nearest paved road by 10 miles. It was perfect, romantic, isolated. It was exactly the way Vanessa wanted it for our 5th anniversary. My wife stood by the kitchenette, wearing a red dress that cost more than my first car. She was pouring wine, 2 glasses, a heavy Cabernet, my favorite. She stirred mine with a spoon, a strange habit she claimed was to aerate the wine. But tonight, the clink of metal against glass sounded like a warning bell. She walked over to the leather armchair where I was sitting, her hips swaying, wearing a smile that could melt a glacier. "To us, Henry," she whispered, handing me the glass. "To forever." I took the glass. The wine was dark and opaque. I brought it to my nose. To anyone else, it smelled like oak and blackberries. But I spent 40 years as a fire chief in Seattle. I can smell an electrical fire through 3 feet of drywall. I can smell an accelerant mixed with gasoline from 50 yards away. And right there, cutting through the bouquet of the wine, was a faint, sickly sweet scent. Ethylene glycol. Antifreeze. It was masked well, likely mixed with the heavy sugar of the expensive vintage, but my nose didn't lie. I looked up at Vanessa. She was watching me, her eyes wide and expectant. She wasn't waiting for a toast. She was waiting for the tremors to stop. Forever. I raised the glass to my lips. I saw her knuckles turn white as she gripped her own stemware. "You know, V," I said, my voice rough, "this reminds me of the Carson fire back in '98. Did I ever tell you about that one?" Her smile faltered just a fraction. "No, baby," she said softly. "Drink up. Let's celebrate." The arsonist thought he was a genius. He thought if he burned the house hot enough, we wouldn't find the chemicals he used to start it. But here's the thing about fire investigators. We always sift through the ashes, and we always find the source. The color drained from her face. I set the glass down on the side table with a heavy thud. I didn't drink it, but what I pulled out from behind the seat cushion next, and the look of absolute terror when she realized I wasn't trapped in the cabin with her, but she was trapped in there with me, is something you need to see to believe. But first, you have to understand how a man who made a career out of saving lives almost let his own life go up in smoke. If you believe that what goes around comes around, and that nobody is above the law, especially not the ones sleeping in your bed, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel. Welcome to the investigation. My name is Henry Gable, but everyone in King County calls me Chief. I retired 3 years ago after 4 decades with the department. I've pulled families out of burning high-rises. I've crawled through tunnels filled with toxic smoke. I've seen things that would turn your hair white overnight. You learn things in that line of work. You learn that accidents are rare. Most of the time, when disaster strikes, it's because of negligence, stupidity, or malice. You learn to trust your gut. If a floor feels spongy, you don't step on it. If a room feels too hot for the amount of fire you see, you get the hell out before it flashes over. My instincts kept me alive when better men died. But I guess retirement made me soft, or maybe loneliness did. After my first wife passed, I spent 5 years eating dinner alone in a big, empty house on the lake. The silence was deafening. Then I met Vanessa. She was 26 years younger, a fitness instructor with energy to burn, and a laugh that filled the empty rooms. My friends raised their eyebrows. "Midlife crisis," they whispered. "She's after the pension," my brother warned me. I ignored them. I told them she made me feel young again. We got married fast. For 5 years, it felt real. I spoiled her. New cars, jewelry, vacations. I thought I was being a good husband. I didn't realize I was just fattening the goose before the slaughter. I should have seen the smoke before the fire. Looking back, the writing was on the wall 6 months ago. I started feeling off. It wasn't anything dramatic at first, just dizziness in the mornings, a slight tremor in my hands when I held my coffee cup. I would stumble getting out of bed. I'm 64, not 80. I lift weights. I run 3 miles a day. This didn't feel right. But Vanessa was right there, looking worried. "Oh, honey," she said, touching my forehead, "you're shaking again. I made you an appointment with Dr. Aris." Dr. Aris wasn't my regular GP. He was a new guy Vanessa recommended, some holistic specialist. He told me I was showing early signs of Parkinson's or maybe even a series of mini-strokes. He prescribed me pills. Vanessa took charge of everything. "You rest, Hank," she said. "I'll handle the cooking. I'll handle the medicine. You just relax." She started making me special smoothies and special stews, anti-inflammatory, she called them. And every time I ate them, I felt worse. I felt guilty for suspecting anything. She seemed so devoted. But an old fire dog never loses his nose completely. It was a Tuesday night, raining hard, when the first alarm bell truly rang, and it didn't come from me. It came from Max. Max is my 7-year-old German shepherd. He's a retired canine unit, smart as a whip, and loyal to a fault. That night, I hadn't been hungry. Vanessa had made her special beef stew, thick, heavy on the spices to hide the flavor. I ate a few bites, but then when she went into the laundry room, I scraped the rest into Mac's bowl under the table. "Here, boy," I whispered, "don't tell Mom." 2 hours later, I was woken up by the sound every dog owner knows, the frantic, heaving sound of a dog trying to expel something from its stomach. I sat up in bed, my own head spinning slightly. I glanced at the clock. It was 1:14 a.m. I threw off the covers and rushed downstairs. The house was dark, but I didn't need lights to find the source of the distress. Max was in the kitchen, his paws scrabbling for purchase on the linoleum. He had vomited multiple times, a dark, foul-smelling mess. But it was his movement that terrified me. Max, who could usually leap a 6-foot fence, was stumbling around like a drunkarder. His back legs were giving out. He was whining, a high-pitched sound of confusion and pain that tore at my heart. I knelt beside him. "I've got you, buddy. I've got you." I gathered his 90-pound frame into my arms. He was convulsing. I stood up, adrenaline momentarily clearing my own dizziness, and headed for the front door. That was when I heard the creak of floorboards above me. I looked up the sweeping staircase. Vanessa was standing at the railing, illuminated by the hallway nightlight. She was wearing her silk robe, her face a mask of calm shadow. She didn't look frantic. She didn't rush down to help me. She just stood there. "Hank," she called down, her voice smooth. "What's going on?" I shouted, kicking the front door open. "Max is sick. He's having seizures. I'm taking him to the emergency vet." "It's probably just a stomach bug, honey," she said, checking her nails. "You shouldn't be driving. You've had those dizzy spells. Just give him some water and let him sleep it off." "He's dying, Vanessa," I roared. "Get out of my way." I didn't wait for her response. I carried Max out to my truck, the rain soaping my t-shirt in seconds. I laid him on the passenger seat and floored it. I drove 80 miles an hour down the winding roads to Bellevue, taking corners with the muscle memory of a man who spent 40 years driving fire trucks. Every time Max whined, my heart hammered harder. I burst into the 24-hour vet clinic carrying Max like a child. The receptionist took one look at us and paged the doctor immediately. "Get him into trauma room 1, she ordered. I spent the next hour pacing the waiting room, staring at the linoleum tiles, wringing my hands. My tremors were bad now. My vision was swimming. I felt nauseous. I told myself it was just stress. It was just the panic of losing my best friend. But deep down, the old investigator in my brain was starting to connect dots I didn't want to see. Dr. Reynolds came out at 3 a.m. She looked exhausted and grim. "Mr. Gable?" I asked, standing up too quickly and almost tipping over. "Is he okay?" "He's stable," she said, gesturing for me to sit back down. "We're flushing his system with ethanol and IV fluids. But Mr. Gable, this wasn't a stomach bug. We ran a toxicology screen because of the seizures. Max has ingested a lethal dose of ethylene glycol." I blinked, my brain foggy. "Ethylene glycol? You mean antifreeze?" "Yes," she said. "Does he have access to your garage? Did you have a leak?" "No," I said, shaking my head.
I switched to the pet-safe propylene glycol formula 5 years ago, specifically for Max. My garage is locked tight. There isn't a drop of the toxic stuff on my property." Dr. Reynolds frowned. "Well, he ingested it recently, and a significant amount. It creates calcium oxalate crystals in the kidneys. It causes vomiting, ataxia, seizures, eventually kidney failure." She paused, looking sympathetically at me. "It tastes sweet, you know. Dogs love it. If someone spilled it, he would lap it right up." It tastes sweet. The room seemed to tilt on its axis. The buzzing in my ears grew deafening. Sweet. The stew. The special anti-inflammatory.
Stew Vanessa had made for dinner. The stew she insisted I eat. The stew she seasoned so heavily that I couldn't taste the meat. I had scraped it into Max's bowl. Max ate my dinner, and now Max was dying of antifreeze poisoning. Wait, I need you to understand exactly what just happened. The doctor thought my dog got into the garbage, but I knew the truth. Max didn't eat trash. He ate my food. The dizziness, the tremors, the Parkinson's diagnosis. I wasn't sick. I was being murdered. I stared at Dr. Reynolds, my mouth dry as ash. "Doctor," I said, my voice barely a whisper, "what are the symptoms of ethylene glycol poisoning in humans?" She looked confused by the question. "Well, essentially the same. Nausea, dizziness, tremors. It mimics drunkenness at first. If left untreated, it shuts down the kidneys and the nervous system." I looked at my shaking hands. I looked at the tremors that Dr. Aris, Vanessa's doctor, had told me were part of aging. I wasn't aging. I was being dosed. Every smoothie, every stew, every time she handed me a drink with that loving smile, she was killing me by inches. "Mr. Gable?" the doctor asked. "Are you all right? You look pale." "I'm fine," I lied. I stood up, forcing my legs to hold my weight. "Save my dog, doctor. Do whatever it takes. Money is no object." I walked out to my truck, sitting in the cab as the rain pounded against the roof. I gripped the steering wheel until my knuckles turned white. My first instinct was to drive to the police station, but what did I have? A sick dog and a hunch? They'd say I was paranoid. They'd say it was an accident. Vanessa was perfect in public. Everyone loved her. Who would believe the retired, senile fire chief over the grieving, beautiful wife? No, if I went to the police now, she'd destroy the evidence before they even got a warrant. She'd claim I fed the dog myself in a moment of confusion. I needed proof, irrefutable, undeniable proof. I drove home. The sky was just starting to turn gray with dawn when I pulled into the driveway. The house was dark. Vanessa was asleep, likely dreaming of the funeral she was planning for me. I didn't go inside, not yet. I went to the garage. I unlocked my tool bench and dug out my old fire investigation kit. I still had test strips. I still had evidence bags. But more importantly, I checked my supply shelf. There, in the back, were 3 jugs of eco-safe coolant, the non-toxic propylene glycol I used. The seals were unbroken. So where did the poison come from? I entered the house quietly through the mudroom. I moved like a ghost, silencing my footsteps the way I used to when assessing a structure for collapse risks. I crept upstairs. Vanessa was sound asleep in our bed, taking up the whole mattress, looking like an angel. I moved past the bedroom to her vanity table in the master bath. Vanessa had thousands of bottles, lotions, toners, makeup removers. A man never looks closely at his wife's vanity. It's camouflage in plain sight. I started checking bottles. Perfume, face wash, and then, tucked in the back behind a row of hairsprays, I found a generic plastic squeeze bottle labeled Makeup Setting Spray. It felt heavy. The liquid inside was a bright neon green. I uncapped it and took a shallow sniff. It wasn't setting spray. It was death. Sweet, syrupy death.
She had decanted antifreeze into a cosmetic bottle so she could keep it handy, right there in the bathroom where she prepared my morning vitamins. I wanted to scream. I wanted to wake her up and drag her to the station myself. But the fire chief in me took over. You don't run into a burning building without knowing where the exit is. I capped the bottle and put it back exactly where I found it. I needed to know why. Money was the obvious answer, but we had a prenup. If I died, she got a payout, sure, but she'd lose the house eventually. Unless she had changed the rules. I went downstairs to my home office. I started digging through the filing cabinet where we kept the life insurance policies. The file was there, but something was wrong. The policy jacket felt thicker than I remembered. I opened it. There, stapled to the front, was a rider added 3 months ago. Account for accidental death and dismemberment double indemnity clause. It raised the payout from $1 million to $3 million in the event of an accidental death, specifically highlighting fire, drowning, or ingestion of toxic substances. At the bottom was my signature. I stared at the scrawl. It looked like my name, but I looked closer. The H was looped at the top. I never looped my H's. It was a forgery. A damn good one, but a forgery. My phone vibrated in my pocket. It was a text from Detective Marcus Cole, my old rookie, now the lead arson investigator for the city. I had texted him from the vet's office, asking him to run a plate number I had seen parked down the street from our house suspiciously often lately. The text read, "Chief, that plate belongs to a guy named Brad Sterling, personal trainer. But here's the kicker. He has a record, fraud and arson. Why are you asking?" I looked at the insurance policy. I looked at the picture of Vanessa and her trainer on the fridge. The smoke cleared. I finally saw the fire. I met Detective Marcus Cole at a diner 3 towns over, a place where the waitress calls everyone sugar and the booths are taped together with duct tape. Marcus didn't look like a cop. He looked like a linebacker who had seen too much. I hired him 15 years ago right out of the academy. I trained him to look at a pile of ash and see a crime scene. Now he was the best arson investigator in the state, and right now he was the only man alive I trusted not to think I was crazy. "You look like hell, Chief." Marcus slid a manila envelope across the sticky table. Hand shaking, pale. If I didn't know better, I'd say you were hitting the bottle. I wish. I took a sip of black coffee, using 2 hands to steady the mug. It's the special tea Vanessa makes me. "Tell me about the license plate." Marcus leaned forward, lowering his voice. "Brad Sterling, personal trainer by day, but he did a 4-year stretch in Oregon for insurance fraud, specifically burning down warehouses for owners who wanted to cash out." I felt a cold chill settle in my gut. Arson. The double indemnity clause on my policy specifically mentioned accidental death by fire. It wasn't a coincidence. It was a blueprint. "And Vanessa?" I asked. Marcus sighed. He looked pained. "Chief, you're not going to like this." He opened the envelope and spread 5 photographs on the table. The first one showed Vanessa leaving her gym. She wasn't wearing workout gear. She was wearing a cocktail dress. The second showed her meeting a man, tall, muscular, with a shaved head, Brad Sterling. The third photo made my stomach turn. They were in his car, kissing, but it wasn't the kiss that bothered me. It was the way she was looking at him, like he was her savior, like they were conspirators sharing a secret joke. "I pulled her phone records," Marcus said. "She has a burner phone, but I triangulated the pings. She spends 3 afternoons a week at his apartment. And look at the last photo." I picked it up. It was blurry, taken through a window. Vanessa and Brad were sitting at a table. On the table were blueprints, not for a gym, for a cabin. "My anniversary trip," I whispered. "She booked a cabin in the Cascades for next weekend." "It's isolated," Marcus said. "No cell service. Volunteer fire department is 20 minutes away. By the time the trucks roll, a wooden structure like that would be a basement fire. There wouldn't be anything left to autopsy." The plan was perfect. Drug me so I can't wake up, start a chimney fire or a propane leak, let the place burn to the ground, collect $3 million, and ride off into the sunset with the arsonist boyfriend. I stared at the photo of my wife, the woman I had held when her mother died, the woman I rewrote my will for. A fury started to burn inside me, hotter than any fire I had ever fought. But it was a cold fire, controlled, strategic. "What do we do?" Marcus asked. "We have enough for conspiracy, maybe, but it's circumstantial. If we move now, she claims she's having an affair and consulting him on home renovations. She gets a divorce, takes half your pension, and walks away free." "No," I shook my head. "She doesn't get half. She gets nothing." I reached into my pocket and pulled out a small charred piece of paper I had retrieved from the fireplace that morning. It was a receipt for 2 5-gallon gas cans and a flare gun, bought with cash. I paused. I can't prove who bought it yet, but if I can catch her planting the device, if I can catch her holding the match— Marcus's eyes widened. "Chief, you're talking about baiting her. You're talking about going to that cabin." "It's the only way," I said. "We let her play her hand, but we rig the deck." "It's too dangerous," Marcus argued. "You're sick. The poison." "I stopped eating the food this morning. I'm switching my meds with placebos. I'll be sober by the weekend. I need you to wire the cabin, audio and video. Can you get a team up there before we arrive?" Marcus looked at me for a long minute. Then he nodded. "I'll handle it."
When I walked through the front door, the house smelled of rotten eggs, sulfur. My firefighter instincts kicked in before my brain could process it. Mercaptan, the additive they put in natural gas so you can smell a leak. It was strong, dangerous levels. "Vanessa!" I shouted, dropping my keys and running toward the kitchen. She was standing in the living room, talking on the phone. She looked up, annoyed. "What is it, Hank? I'm on with my mother." "Get out of the house!" I yelled, grabbing her arm. "Do you smell that? It's a gas leak." I dragged her out to the front porch, my heart hammering. I ran back inside, holding my breath, and sprinted to the kitchen. I checked the stove. All 4 burners were off. I checked the oven. Off. I checked the furnace intake in the hallway. Nothing. I stood there in the kitchen, confused. The smell was overpowering, but the meter wasn't spinning. There was no hiss. Then I saw it, tucked behind the decorative vase on the mantelpiece, a small open vial. I walked over and picked it up. It wasn't natural gas. It was a chemical stink bomb, a prank vial of sulfur concentrate, the kind kids use. I turned around. Vanessa was standing in the doorway. She wasn't scared. She was smiling, but she covered it instantly with a look of terrified concern. "Hank," she whimpered, "what are you doing? There's no smell. I don't smell anything." My blood ran cold. She wasn't trying to blow up the house today. She was gaslighting me. She was setting a trap. "You don't smell that?" I asked, holding the vial hidden in my palm. "No, honey." She stepped closer, reaching for my face. "You're having another episode. Remember what Dr. Aris said? Olfactory hallucinations, phantom smells. It's the stroke, Hank. It's your brain playing tricks on you." She steered me toward a chair. "Sit down. I'll call the doctor. I think we need to increase your dosage before the trip." She pulled out her phone. I watched her tap the screen. She wasn't dialing a doctor. She held the phone to her ear and started talking to no one. "Dr. Aris? Yes, it's Vanessa. It's happening again. He's screaming about gas leaks. Yes, he's very confused. I'm scared, doctor. I'm afraid he might hurt himself." I sat there, gripping the arms of the chair. I slipped the sulfur vial into my pocket. She was building the record. She was creating the evidence that Henry Gable was a senile, hallucinating old man who was liable to accidentally burn himself alive. But she made one mistake. She forgot that I installed a motion-activated nanny cam in the hallway last year to catch the delivery guys throwing packages. I waited until she went upstairs to pack for our trip. I went to the security hub in the closet. I rewound the footage to 10 minutes ago.
I watched the video. It showed Vanessa walking into the living room. She pulled the vial from her pocket. She uncapped it and placed it behind the vase. Then she waved her hand to waft the smell toward the kitchen. Then she picked up her phone and started acting. I saved the clip. I emailed it to Marcus. We had the rehearsal. Now we were ready for the main event. "Hank," Vanessa called from upstairs, "come up here and help me pick a dress. I want to look nice for you." I stood up. I walked to the stairs. "Coming, darling," I called back. I walked into the bedroom. She was holding up the red dress, the one she planned to wear while she watched me die. "It's beautiful," I said, "to die for." The Friday of the trip arrived with a heavy, leaden sky that promised snow, lots of it. I stood in the kitchen packing a cooler, moving slowly, deliberately, making sure my hands trembled just enough to sell the act. Vanessa was in the driveway, loading the SUV. She was humming. It was the sound of a woman who thought she was about to cash a winning lottery ticket. I had already switched my pills. The bottle in my toiletry bag, labeled Parkinson's Aid, was filled with simple sugar pills I had pressed myself in the garage, using a pill mold. The real medication, the poison Dr. Aris prescribed, was in an evidence bag taped underneath the chassis of my truck. But I had one more piece of equipment to secure. I walked to the gun safe in the master bedroom closet. I punched in the code. The heavy door swung open. I reached for my service weapon, a Glock 19 that I've carried since 1990. I checked the chamber. Clean. Loaded. I slid it into the waistband ulster at the small of my back and pulled my flannel shirt over it. "Hank?" I spun around. Vanessa was standing in the doorway. Her eyes darted to my waist, then up to my face. She looked annoyed. "What are you doing with that?" she asked, pointing to the hidden bulge. "We're going on a romantic getaway. Do you really need a gun?" "It's bear country, V," I said, patting my side. "And with this snow coming, wolves get hungry. I'd rather have it and not need it." "It makes me nervous," she crossed her arms, "especially with your shaking. What if it goes off? What if you hurt yourself?" "I won't hurt myself." I stared at her, putting a little steel in my voice. "Safety is muscle memory. It doesn't go away." She hesitated, clearly calculating whether pushing the issue would make me suspicious. She decided against it. "Fine, but keep it locked up in the cabin. I don't want to see it." We got in the car. The drive to the North Cascades usually takes 3 hours. It took 5. By the time we hit the mountain pass, the snow was falling in sheets, thick and white, blinding the windshield. The wipers slacked back and forth, a rhythmic countdown to the main event. I drove. Vanessa sat in the passenger seat, texting. She had her phone tilted away from me, the brightness turned down. She thought I was focusing on the road, but I was watching her reflection in the side window. She was typing furiously. "He's shaking bad, driving slow, almost there." I saw the message bubble pop up. It was from Mom, but her mother has been dead for 10 years. Brad Sterling was waiting for the update. My own phone buzzed in the cup holder, a single vibration. I glanced down. It was Marcus. "Package delivered. Eyes are on. Be careful, boss." "Who's that?" Vanessa asked sharply. "Spam call," I said. "Telemarketer." I turned off my phone and tossed it into the back seat. "No distractions. Just us, right?" "Right," she smiled. She reached over and squeezed my hand. Her skin was warm, soft. It was hard to reconcile that touch with the poison in her purse. "I just want you to relax this weekend, Henry. No stress, no doctors, just peace." We pulled up to the cabin as the sun began to dip behind the peaks. It was isolated, a timber frame structure nestled deep in the pines, accessible only by a single logging road that the snow was rapidly erasing. Marcus had chosen his observation point well. I scanned the tree line. I didn't see him, but I knew he was there, huddled in a camouflage blind with a long-range lens and a parabolic microphone, shivering in the cold to watch my back. I killed the engine. The silence of the woods rushed in to fill the cab. "Wow," Vanessa breathed. "It's beautiful." "It's remote," I said. "If anything happens out here, nobody would hear a scream." She laughed, a nervous, tinny sound. Why would anyone be screaming, silly? Come on, let's get the fire started. We unpacked. The cabin was freezing inside. I went to the woodpile. While she built the fire, I went to the kitchen. I watched her out of the corner of my eye. She was bustling around, opening cupboards. She pulled out a canister of coffee. I'm going to make us something hot, warm us up before the wine. I crouched by the hearth, striking a match. The kindling caught. Fire has always been my element. It breathes, it eats, it respects you only if you respect it. Vanessa didn't respect fire. She thought it was just a tool to erase mistakes. That was her weakness. Here you go, baby. I turned. She was holding 2 mugs. Steam curled off the dark liquid. She held one out to me. Her hand was steady. My hand, as I reached for it, trembled violently. I spilled a little on the floor. Oops, I mumbled. Sorry. It's okay, she said soothingly. Here, sip it slowly. It's got plenty of sugar. It'll help the shakes. I brought the mug to my lips. It smelled like hazelnut coffee, but beneath the roast, beneath the creamer, there was that bitter chemical edge of sedative. Not the antifreeze this time. That was the slow kill. This was the setup. She needed me unconscious. She needed me passed out in that armchair so she could accidentally knock over a candle or a kerosene lamp. I feigned a sip. I swallowed air, making a gulping sound. Good? She asked. Delicious, I lied. I'm going to change, she said, her eyes gleaming, into something more comfortable. Drink up. I'll be right back. She headed for the loft bedroom. I listened to her footsteps on the wooden stairs. 1, 2, 3. I moved fast. I stood up and poured the entire mug into the ashes of the fireplace, toward the back, where the liquid would steam off unseen. Then I sat back down, holding the empty mug, letting my eyelids droop. I needed her to think the drug was working. I needed her to feel safe enough to start the arson, because I couldn't just arrest her for poisoning me. She'd claim it was an accident, a mix-up. I needed her to strike the match. I needed attempted murder in 1st degree, caught on tape, undeniable. 10 minutes later, she came downstairs. She was wearing the red dress, the same red dress from the vision I had in my head 1,000 times since I found the poison. She looked stunning and lethal. She walked over to me. I let my head loll to the side. I let my breathing grow heavy, rhythmic. Hank?
She whispered. I groaned, shifting in the chair. Tired, V. So tired. I know. She touched my cheek. Her fingers were cold. You sleep, old man. It'll be over soon. She stood up and walked to the kitchen. I opened my eyes a millimeter, just a slit. Through my lashes, I watched her. She wasn't getting water. She was opening her weekend bag. She pulled out a road flare and a plastic jug that wasn't milk. It was the EcoSafe bottle from my garage, but the liquid inside wasn't blue. It was yellowish. Gasoline. My heart hammered against my ribs like a trapped bird. This wasn't going to be a small fire. She was going to torch the place with me sitting in the chair. She walked to the perimeter of the room, splashing the liquid along the baseboards. She moved efficiently, creating a trail that led to the heavy curtains, then to the rug, then straight to my feet. Wait. If she lit that trail, the fumes alone would knock me out before I could move. The vapor pressure of gasoline in a confined space is explosive. She wasn't just setting a fire, she was building a bomb. And she had no idea she was sealing herself in the blast zone. I had to move. Now. The gasoline vapors were already burning my throat. Vanessa backed toward the heavy oak front door, spilling the last glugs from the jug onto the bearskin rug. She reached into her pocket and pulled out the flare gun. It was orange, plastic, and deadly. She raised it, aiming not at me, but at the puddle of fuel accumulating near the hearth. You're using too much, I said, calmly, opening my eyes. Vanessa screamed. It was a sharp, terrified sound that bounced off the log walls. She stumbled back, dropping the empty jug. The gasoline splashed onto her red dress. She stared at me, wide-eyed, as I sat up in the armchair, brushing the fake sleep from my face. I looked at the flare gun in her hand. My hand didn't tremble, not even a little. "Henry?" she stammered.
You, you drank the coffee." "I dumped it." I stood up slowly, just like I dumped the antifreeze you put in the wine, and just like I found the stash in your makeup kit. The shock on her face morphed instantly into something uglier. Rage. She didn't drop the gun. She raised it higher, pointing it squarely at my chest. This was the moment, the counterattack. Most amateurs would break down when caught, but Vanessa wasn't an amateur. She was cornered, and cornered animals bite. "It doesn't matter," she hissed, her voice shaking. "Nobody knows we're here. Nobody knows you're awake. If I shoot you now, the fire will cover the bullet wound. They'll just think the confused old man tried to light the fireplace and blew himself up." "Is that the story?" I took a step toward her. "Like the gas leak back at the house? Like the tremors Dr. Eris invented?" "Stay back!" she shouted, backing up until her heels hit the door. "I did what I had to do. You were supposed to die quietly, Henry. You had 5 good years. I gave you that, but I am not going to spend the rest of my life changing your diapers and fighting for scraps." She reached behind her with her free hand and fumbled for the doorknob. She twisted the deadbolt open. "Don't do it, V," I warned. "You light this fire, there's no coming back." "I'm already gone," she spat. She didn't shoot me. She did something smarter. She pulled the door open, stepped out into the blizzard, and slammed it shut. I heard the distinct click of the deadbolt sliding home. She had locked me from the outside. Then, through the window, I saw the flash. She pointed the flare gun at the gasoline-soaked window frame and pulled the trigger. The flare punched through the thin glass. It hissed as it landed in the puddle of fuel on the rug. Whoosh! The room didn't just catch fire, it exploded. The gasoline vapors ignited in a concussion of heat and noise that knocked me backward over the armchair. A wall of orange flame erupted instantly, separating me from the door. The heat was blistering. It singed my eyebrows instantly. The smoke detector, which she likely tampered with, remained silent, but the roar of the fire was deafening. This was it, the trap. I was locked in a wooden box that was turning into an incinerator, but Vanessa made one fatal miscalculation. She forgot she wasn't murdering an old accountant. She was trying to burn a fire chief. I didn't panic. Panic breathes air, and air is what kills you. I dropped to the floor, where the oxygen was cleaner. I army crawled toward the back of the cabin. The fire was rolling across the ceiling now, rollover effect, looking for a vent. I knew exactly where to go. The kitchen. The back door in the kitchen was locked, and Vanessa had likely jammed it, but I hadn't come unprepared. 2 days ago, when I told her I was checking for mice, I had loosened the hinges on the pantry window. I grabbed the heavy cast-iron skillet from the stove. I smashed the glass. I cleared the shards with the pan. I dove headfirst out into the snow, tumbling onto the frozen ground just as the cabin's front windows blew out from the pressure. I lay in the snow for a second, gasping for freezing cold air. My lungs burned. My face was scorched, but I was alive. I rolled over and looked up. The cabin was fully engulfed. It was a beacon of orange light in the swirling white dark. Vanessa wouldn't be watching the back. She'd be at the car or watching the front, waiting for the screams that never came. She thought I was dead. I pulled the Glock 19 from my waistband. I stood up. The tremors were gone. The dizziness was gone. All that was left was the cold. I moved around the perimeter of the cabin, staying low in the shadows of the firelight. I spotted her tracks in the snow. They led toward the SUV. I followed them. I found her standing by the car door, frantically fumbling with her keys. The firelight illuminated her red dress. She was staring at the burning cabin, a look of twisted triumph on her face. She was dialing her phone, probably calling 911 to report the tragedy. "Drop the phone, Vanessa." My voice cut through the howling wind. She froze. She turned around slowly like a puppet on strings. Her eyes went wide when she saw me standing 10 feet away, ash-covered, holding my service weapon leveled at her chest. She looked at the burning cabin, then back at me. She couldn't process it. Ghosts weren't supposed to walk out of incinerators. "No," she whimpered. "You were inside." Fire moves fast, but justice moves faster. She looked at the gun, then looked at the SUV. She made a choice. She turned and threw the door open, scrambling for the driver's seat. She thought she could outrun me. She thought she could run over me. She turned the key. The engine cranked, sputtered, and died. She tried again. Click, click, click. She beat the steering wheel, screaming, "Start! Start, you piece of trash!" "It won't start, V," I said, walking up to the driver's window. "I pulled the distributor cap before we even unpacked. You're not going anywhere." She stared at me through the glass. The realization hit her. She was trapped. No car, 10 miles from civilization, a blizzard closing in, and a husband who knew every single one of her secrets. She locked the doors. It was pathetic. I didn't need to break the window. I just needed to wait. The cabin was gone. The heat was fading. The cold was moving in. It was 10 degrees below zero out here. In that cocktail dress, she'd freeze in 20 minutes if the car didn't run. "Open the door," I ordered. "Go to hell," she screamed, shivering already. "Brad is coming. He knows where we are. He's coming for me." "Brad isn't coming," a new voice spoke from the tree line. We both looked up. A figure stepped out of the white gloom, dressed in winter camouflage. It was Detective Marcus Cole. He was holding a police radio. Behind him, 3 other officers emerged from the snow, their tack lights cutting through the dark. "Brad Sterling was picked up at his apartment an hour ago. He rolled on you, Mrs. Gable, told us everything in exchange for a plea deal. The antifreeze, the fake doctor, the insurance policy, we have it all." Vanessa slumped against the steering wheel. The fight drained out of her. She unlocked the door. Marcus opened it and hauled her out. The red dress dragged in the snow. As they clicked the handcuffs on her wrists, she didn't look at me with hate. She looked at me with confusion. She still didn't understand how the old sick man had outsmarted her. "How?" she whispered, her teeth chattering. "You were sick. I saw you shaking." I holstered my weapon. I walked up to her, leaning in close so she could smell the smoke on my jacket. "You played with fire, Vanessa," I said softly, "but you forgot to check the wind direction."
They put her in the back of the cruiser. I stood there watching the taillights fade into the blizzard, leaving me alone with the glowing embers of the anniversary cabin. The double indemnity clause was worthless now, but looking at the empty woods, knowing my life was mine again, that felt like winning the lottery. But wait, if you think this ends with her just going to jail, you don't know me. I had one last surprise for Vanessa Gable, a parting gift that would hit her harder than any prison sentence. The trial took place 6 months later. It was the hottest ticket in King County. Everyone wanted to see the beautiful widow-to-be who tried to torch the fire chief. Vanessa sat at the defense table. She was wearing a modest cardigan and glasses. She was trying to look like a librarian, not a killer. Her lawyer was good. He was trying to spin the narrative that I was mentally unstable. He claimed I started the fire myself in a fit of dementia-induced rage, and that the antifreeze in the wine was planted by me to frame her. It was a bold strategy, and for a moment, watching the jury's faces, I thought it might actually work. Then came the prosecutor's turn. "Your Honor, we would like to introduce Exhibit A," the district attorney announced. He rolled a TV cart to the center of the courtroom. Vanessa frowned. She looked at her lawyer. They didn't know about this evidence. This was the footage from the cameras Marcus and his team had hidden in the cabin ceiling beams. The video played. It was high definition. It showed everything. The pouring of the gasoline, the mocking tone in her voice, the flare gun. The audio filled the silent courtroom. "If I shoot you now, the fire will cover the bullet wound. They'll just think the confused old man tried to light the fireplace and blew himself up." Vanessa didn't look like a librarian anymore. She looked small, defeated. Her lawyer closed his notebook. He knew it was over. But I wasn't done yet. I took the stand to give my victim impact statement, and this was the moment I delivered that final surprise I told you about. I leaned into the microphone. I looked directly at Vanessa. "You did all of this for $3 million, I said, calm and low. "That was the insurance payout you thought you'd get, plus the house, plus my pension." She glared back at me. Her eyes were wet but filled with hate. "But here's the thing about paperwork, Vanessa," I continued. "I was a bureaucrat for 20 years before I retired. I read the fine print. And 3 weeks before the trip, when I found the poison, I didn't just contact the police, I contacted my estate attorney. I pulled a document from my jacket pocket. I transferred the house into an irrevocable trust for the Seattle Firefighters Burn Foundation, and the insurance policy? I canceled it 10 days before we left for the cabin. Even if you had succeeded, even if you had burned me to ash, you would have inherited exactly $0 and 0 cents. The color drained from her face completely. The realization hit her harder than the guilty verdict. She hadn't just committed a crime, she had committed a pointless crime. She had destroyed her life for a payday that didn't exist. "You burned it all down for nothing," I said. The gavel came down hard. Guilty on all counts, the judge ruled. Attempted murder in the first degree, arson, conspiracy, insurance fraud. The judge wasn't lenient. She got 25 years. Brad Sterling, her personal trainer lover, took a plea deal and got 10 years in exchange for testifying that she was the mastermind. As the bailiffs led her away, she stopped. She looked back at me one last time. There was no love left, no anger, just a hollow, empty realization that she had underestimated the man she slept next to for 5 years. She thought I was old. She thought I was slow. She forgot that fire doesn't age. It just gets hotter. It's been a year now. The house on the lake is quiet again. I stripped the master bedroom down to the studs. I got rid of the furniture she bought. I burned the clothes she left behind. Some people might say that's extreme. I call it a controlled burn. Sometimes you have to clear out the dead wood so new things can grow. My tremors are gone completely. The dizziness vanished about a week after I switched my diet. I'm back in the gym. I'm running 3 miles a morning again. And Max made a full recovery. He's sleeping at my feet right now as I record this. He's a little slower getting up in the mornings, but aren't we all? We saved each other, that dog and I. He took the bullet meant for me, and I made sure the shooter never hurt anyone again. I spend my weekends consulting for the department now. I teach rookie investigators how to look for the patterns others miss. I teach them that the most dangerous fires aren't the ones you can see raging on the roof. They're the ones smoldering inside the walls, hidden behind layers of paint and good manners. I'm 65 years old. I'm alone, and for the first time in a long time, I'm happy, because I know I'm safe. I know the food in my fridge won't kill me. I know the woman sleeping next to me isn't plotting my funeral, because there is no woman sleeping next to me. And honestly, I sleep better that way. Take it from an old chief. Trust your gut. If something smells wrong, it probably is. If someone is trying too hard to convince you that you're sick or crazy or confused, check the evidence and check the trash cans. You might just find the answer that saves your life. This is John Vengeance. Thank you for watching my story. If you're glad Vanessa is rotting in a cell where she belongs, smash that like button. Share this with someone who needs to hear it. And always remember, smoke always leads to fire. Stay safe, watch your back, and never drink the wine if you didn't see the bottle opening.